So I will introduce the speaker of today. We have three speakers. Our first speaker is Sister Teodora Shulak from Ukraine. In 1998, together with two other Ukrainian companions, Teodora started the Congregation of Missionary Sisters of the Holy Redeemer, Redemptorist Sisters, in Ukraine. She made her first vows in 2003. In 2007, she graduated from the Faculty of Philosophy and Theology of the Ukrainian Catholic University and holds a master's degree in theology. She received a licentiate in psychology from the Institute of Psychology of Pontifical Gregorian University, Rome. From 2013 to 2022, she was elected Superior General of the congregation and resides in Germany. Please welcome Sister Teodora for her presentation.
Before I begin, I would like to express my gratitude and trust for the opportunity to participate in this very important conference. And with my topic and presentation of violence against women in the context of war, I have the opportunity and privilege not only to contribute to the cause of safeguarding, but also to raise the voice of many Ukrainian women who are at this moment experiencing the danger of explosions, whether in maternity hospitals or with small children in their arms, experiencing the violence of captivity or the dangers of living in the occupied territories. In preparing to this conference, I asked for live testimonies from brave journalist Sofia Kaczmar, who was happy to share with me for this conference the testimonies of women released from the captivity. And I also want to very briefly mention also my courageous sisters who are now in Ukraine, in different parts, in different cities of Ukraine, and they refused to leave the country in this dangerous situation because they want to be with their people, and every 3 weeks they meet women, wives, daughters, and mothers who lost their sons, husbands, fathers, and they stand by them, along with them in this difficult situation. Thank you. The real context for highlighting the issue of violence against women in war is the 11-year-long Russo-Ukrainian war, which began in 2014. At that time, Russia illegally annexed Crimea and launched hostilities in the eastern Ukraine. On February 24, 2022, Russia escalated to a full-scale invasion, aiming to destroy Ukraine's independence. The war has brought horrific destruction, mass killings, and systematic crimes against civilians. As of April 2025, Russia occupies approximately 18.7% of Ukraine's territory. For comparison, it would mean 37% of Italy's area. I will not now come, not to geographical, not to political situation. This is just that you have the context. I will speak on the violence of women during the war. Numerous testimonies of abuse, rape, and even killings, especially of civilian women, confirm that these acts are part of a deliberate policy of terror and military tactics. The Russian Federation uses violence against Ukrainians as a weapon, targeting women of all ages, from the youngest to the oldest. The sexual violence in Ukraine is so harrowing that First Lady Olena Zelenska warned that Russian forces were using it systematically and openly, and that it was another weapon in their arsenal. Now I would like to present 6 purposes of using violence against women in war. And I want to underline that the violence of women is not just a consequence of the war, it is a purpose. And one of these purposes is terror and intimidation of the civilian population. In all these 6 purposes, we will meet sexual, physical, and psychological violence. Sexual violence is a tool used by Russian soldiers to harm the Ukrainian population, demoralize, intimidate, suppress resistance, demotivate the army, and destroy human dignity. The enemy deliberately rapes, tortures, beats, and kills women to spread fear among the population. Psychological violence, intimidation, and threats makes people afraid to go outside or resist. Public torture is used to break the will to fight. And as a result, people are frightened, flee the homes, and become demoralized. I will use some examples. This is the lived testimonies. Some are with real names, some are with changed names, but they were or witnessed personally, or they were taken from different Amnesty International or other organizations who are making their investigations in Ukraine. Svetlana recounts how during the occupation, a Russian soldier repeatedly raped her at gunpoint. She survived the ordeal, but is afraid to talk about it, even with loved ones. Her case is documented by Ukrainian human rights defenders and submitted to the International Criminal Court. And in Kharkiv region, a woman named Oksana reports being held in a basement with other women where they were victims of violence. Her story was one of the key cases in the Amnesty International reports. The second purpose of using violence against women is means of ethnic cleansing and genocide. Women are forcibly impregnated to change the ethnic composition of the population. In many wars, soldiers have deliberately committed rape to force women to bear the enemy's children. Victims of such crimes often feel social stigma and rejection even in their own communities. From the testimony of Anna Orel, they just want to destroy us mentally. Russian forces have used rape as a deliberate tactic to dehumanize the victims. Most people who survive through this, they don't want to live on. And as Alisa Kovalenko says, later he, Russian officer, tried to rape me. That's why I think it was a weapon of war, because you cannot have a stronger humiliation than this. She is a journalist. Another purpose is destabilization of society and destruction of families. The killing of men leaves women unsupported, often alone with children. Mass rapes and torture destroy families. Victims face social stigma. Women are used as human shields, forced labor under occupation. As a result, the social structure is destroyed and trust between people is undermined. It was very hard. I was left alone with 3 children. No one believed the war would start. It was a shock and we were scared. Heavy fighting was all around us. Russian military planes flew so low we could see the pilot's eyes. It affected the children deeply. From that day, we lived in the basement for almost a month. My daughter could no longer sleep in the house. My children are experiencing severe psychological and emotional stress. There is nowhere to feel safe. numerous injuries and killings of women and children during the bombings of peaceful cities under occupation and on the front line. This is a testimony of my own city, Lviv. September 4th, 2024. A Russian missile strike on Lviv killed 4 members of one family, a mother and 3 daughters of Yaroslav Bazilevich. He survived as he had just stepped back into the apartment to get water. One of the daughters was a student in the Ukrainian Catholic University, was an excellent girl. I was the richest, happiest man and father. I had a treasure and always knew it. To have such a wife and such responsible, hardworking, beautiful, intelligent, and patriotic daughters. In a single moment, I lost the richness of feelings they gave me throughout our life together. Another purpose is forced displacement and depopulation. Unbearable living conditions, rape, torture, and bombings force women to flee the country. Children are forcibly deported, and women are taken to Russia or occupied territories. Refugee women fall victim to human trafficking and sexual exploitation. As a result, a decrease in the Ukrainian population and a weakening of the state. Russia's ongoing attacks on critical civilian infrastructure are war crimes that restrict access to medical care for those living in Ukraine. As Katerina says, she's an internally displaced woman who was 9 weeks pregnant. I didn't know what would happen to us. There were rumors about evacuation and doctors leaving. I couldn't get an ultrasound or any tests. There was simply no access, and that added to the anxiety and emotional tension. After fleeing to Dnipro, Katerina constantly faced difficulties trying to cope with a newborn while working a combat zone. The front line is approaching our city. Uncertainty is the scariest part. Where will you be tomorrow? Will you be able to return home? The fifth purpose of using violence, undermining economic and social stability, destruction of homes, businesses, infrastructure, hospitals. Women lost jobs and means to support children. Widows are single mothers lack income, making them vulnerable to exploitation. Dependence on humanitarian aid increases stress and vulnerability. Everything has changed for the worse. Men from our family are at war. Women are alone. Many with small children and no income. No help, neither physical nor financial. I returned to the danger zone with my children. Maybe it was wrong, but I have to care for my parents. For them and for my elderly parents, I have no choice. Tamara from Donetsk region. And the last purpose that I want to mention is humiliation and dehumanization. Rape is used as a symbol of dominance and method of forcing Ukrainians to submission. Sexual violence against women, including female soldiers, is used to demonstrate their weakness. Torture and public humiliation is used to instill fear. As a result, the enemy seeks to demonstrate its superiority and to break Ukrainian self-identity. Rape is used as a punishment for women involved in resistance, civic activism, or military service. In dictatorial regimes and occupied zones, it may be used as interrogation or torture method. Some armies use sexual violence to educate the population and exert absolute power. And now I will tell two examples. This is live testimonies of Lyudmila Husainova and Victoria Andrusha, who survived captivity, Russian captivity. My name is Lyudmila Husainova. I am 61. I was in Russian captivity for over 3 years. I was arrested in occupied Novoazovsk on October 9th, 2019. They stopped me on the street, shoved me into a car, searched my home, found Ukrainian books and a flag, put a sack over my head, and took me away. She was held in secret prison isolation and in Donetsk pre-trial detention center. And this is her testimony. I wasn't allowed to sit or lie down from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. For the first 4 days, all I heard were terrifying screams. I begged that they were not the screams of my loved ones. That was the most frightening part for me. They threatened to hand me over to the militants for their entertainment. They take pleasure in forcing an older woman to undress. They touch, pinch, laugh, poke with sticks or beat. There were days when we were given only 2 small pieces of bread a day, very tiny. And you had to make it last. Just water, and that was it. The pearl barley porridge was like stones. They mixed in some dirt, mouse droppings. It was impossible to eat. I still don't feel the taste of food. I don't crave anything. I don't want to eat at all. In March 2022, 25-year-old mathematics teacher Victoria Andrusha was abducted by Russian forces from her parents' home in the Chernihiv region. Accused of espionage and threatened with 10 years in prison or even death, she was held for 6 months in Russian pretrial detention centers and penal colonies. Those 6 months were filled with torture, humiliating interrogations, and constant psychological pressure. Victoria admits that the conversations she often overheard from the Russians gave her the impression that she was in a madhouse. They take a person into a hallway where there are no cameras, and there the beatings happen as much and as long as they see fit. They used electric shock devices. They said, "You have lived enough. That's it. You will not have any more of this." There was a moment when I told them I was about to pass out, that I was losing consciousness. They didn't believe me. They threatened to burn me alive. The most painful method of torture is to burn a person alive. And there was the fire next to me, the closed doors, and the moment when they were just laughing. There were nervous breakdowns. There were suicide attempts. Then they kept pressuring me, saying things like, "See, you can't take it. Your psyche is too weak." And then you either learn to resist and not react, or they destroy you as a person. Orisia Kulik, who has a PhD in history from Stanford University, her studies focused on the Soviet Union, Eastern Europe, and regional elite in post-Stalin Soviet Ukraine. I think she, in her works, in her articles, she really summarized very well what I want also to say, almost to the end. When talking about Ukraine, Putin wanted to make sure everyone understood that the country belonged to him and that he could do with it what he pleased. Ukraine, cast as the woman in this relationship, was left in an extremely vulnerable position while trying to leave Russia's sphere of influence. As we know, women in abusive relationships are at the greatest risk when attempting to remove themselves from the situation, as the abuser often lashes out with extreme violence. We have seen extreme violence in Ukraine, much of it gendered and targeting unarmed civilians. And still, we have women who look in the eyes of death and violence. Tamila Tasheva, member of the Ukrainian Parliament, is speaking about Oksana Rubinyak, the girl you see on the picture. On February 24, she immediately joined the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine. For a year and a half, she was the only woman in the machine gun platoon of legendary 72nd Black Zaporizhia Brigade, carrying out combat missions in the most difficult areas of the front, including Bakhmut, Vuhleritska, and Zaitsevo. Oksana survived several serious injuries, but each time she returned to the front. Today, she is the commander of the Flaming Wings unit of the 91st Separate Anti-Tank Battalion. This is a great responsibility, and Oksana is handling it well. But Oksana is not just a soldier. Even before the war, she actively worked with young people, mentoring and inspiring them. She has not abandoned this mission even in the midst of the war. Moreover, Oksana is a talented poet. Her poems written during the war are deep and sincere. One of them contains the following words: "When there is no tailwind, remember, there is you. And your life depends solely on your own actions, on your thoughts, views, and conversations, on every word and every deed." They can kill our wishes and dreams, but never our will. This is a song that is very often we can hear in Ukraine these days. Violence remains an invisible weapon that continues to act long after the fighting ends. It breaks lives, but not the spirit. Ukrainian women who survived war can become symbols not only of pain, but also of resilience and strength. Many women also support their men. They need to be strong, that the men can be at front and fight for our independence. And 2 weeks ago, I had the conversation of one soldier with one of our sisters who accompany soldiers. And I've had, as he said, "Sister, you are my angel. And when I need to go to the battle, I think I have 2 wings, presence and prayer of the sister." And I think in this way we also contribute to peace, to freedom, and that we can live in a democratic country. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sister Teodora, for your powerful presentation.